Welcome back, accomplices. Hope you're all ready for today's episode. From what I've been told, it's a real doozy.
Well, it is Shaina's birthday, so I had to make it memorable. That's right, folks. My lovely co-host is celebrating her 32nd birthday today.
Aw, way to age drop there. At least I'm still younger than you.
Not by much, bro. Like, we're the same age for 9 days.
Still younger.
Do you have any plans for your birthday besides spending it with me?
Well, I'm gonna be getting my hair done. Pretty excited about that. That should help me not look quite so homely.
You don't look homely.
Okay. You're so sweet. Other than that, just kind of hanging out with the family. Not too much really going on, which I'm okay with a nice, quiet weekend before school starts back up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you guys go back to school
Yep.
soon here in the next couple of days. That's exciting. Also, I'm glad that Adam was able to make that happen because I was trying to get him in touch with the girl that cuts my hair, but she's off the whole weekend. So, which also reminds me, I do need to dye my hair before next weekend. So luckily, I only work 3 days this week. So I'm sure I'll find some time to do it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we do have a bit of a case for you guys today and some facts. So I'm just going to get into it. Also, I'm going to pre-apologize to Shaina here because I know how hard it is for her to deal with cases that deal with kids.
Yay. On my birthday, even, Tara.
Yeah, I know. Happy birthday.
Rude.
So the case I'm doing for you today is John Jamelske. New York kidnapper and rapist John Jamelske earned many names after the world learned the truth of his crimes, from the Syracuse dungeon master, and I'm not talking about pointy ears and bearded dwarves on a quest to find a pot of gold, all the way to Ariel Castro of Syracuse. For those of you who don't get that reference, in 2002, Ariel Castro abducted 3 young women and kept them captive in his house for years, where he tormented and raped them. But that's a case for another day. Over a 15-year period, Jamelske kidnapped, imprisoned, and systematically raped 5 women ranging in age from 14 to 53.
Thanks.
Jamelske had a handmade underground dungeon in which he kept the women as sex slaves, abducting and releasing them one at a time, keeping some for years and some for just a few months. However, Jamelske underestimated his 5th and final 16-year-old victim, and she was able to contact a family member, leading the police straight to him.
Yay.
In John Jamelske's warped mind, the eccentric serial rapist had done nothing wrong. He hadn't kidnapped and raped these women, but he had been in a relationship with them and treating them well. So, not really my idea of a relationship, but to each their own, I guess.
The most romantic.
So a little backstory on John. John Thomas Jamelske was born on May 9th, 1935 in Fayetteville, New York. His father was a watchmaker, and I couldn't really find anything about his mother, so I guess I just kind of assumed she wasn't in the picture. In high school, Jamelske was very quiet and withdrawn. He rarely spoke a word to anyone. He was an academic underachiever, so, there's that. He liked history classes, but disliked math, which, same. And he stayed away from sports. And I don't know why that was important, but I found that, so I just added it.
It's important because you relate to that whole statement so much.
Yeah. I played sports, though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I played basketball and volleyball and soccer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. Soccer in high school? Because I played soccer in high school.
No, I played youth soccer. I didn't play soccer in high school.
Oh, okay.
No, I smoked a lot of weed in high school. The only thing I really ran in high school was my mouth, so.
And you went pro with that.
Yeah, I did. Oh, where was I? Okay. After graduating from Morrisville State College in 1995 with a degree in watchmaking, which, side note, I did not know you could get a degree in watchmaking, but apparently that is a thing.
Sorry, 1 second. You said 1995.
Oh, I'm sorry. 1955. Sorry about that, guys. 1955, he graduated with a degree in watchmaking. He had a few blue-collar jobs and married a school teacher named Dorothy Richmond. They had 3 sons together. The firstborn actually died as an infant.
Son.
Jamelske... What? What? Jamelske had talked his father into investing in stocks, and upon his father's demise, both Jamelske and his wife received a considerable inheritance. By the year 2000, Jamelske had become a millionaire due to the inheritance and some choice real estate investments in California and Nevada. But despite his wealth, Jamelske lived a very frugal lifestyle and was a compulsive hoarder. He even made arrangements with libraries to save the food coupons included in subscription magazines for him. And when the DeWitt area in which Jamelske lived was purchased and the other properties on the street were remodeled and improved, Jamelske simply built a tall wooden fence around his house instead. And of course, by 1988, Jamelske started hoarding humans as well. After his wife became ill, he devised and depraved, right? Yeah, depraved. Oh, okay. After his wife became...
Yep, checks out.
Yep, that's right. He devised and depraved a way of ensuring he would receive the sex his wife's illness now prevented. What love.
So romantic.
Jamelske built a concrete dungeon 3 feet below ground outside his ranch house. Outside his ranch house at 77 Hillbridge. What the fuck?
You're taking a page out of my book.
I know.
Read.
Fuck me, man. God. I swear I only had 2 edibles before this. Shit. So his ranch house was at 77 High Bridge Road in DeWitt, which was an upscale neighborhood of Syracuse. Though his whole family was aware of the existence of the bunker under the house, they were unaware that he used it as a dungeon. Shocker. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
The bunker, or dungeon, as I will be referring to it, was 8 feet high, 26 feet long, and 12 feet wide, connected to the east wall of the basement via a short tunnel. Access to the 8-foot tunnel was through a steel door behind a storage shelf. The tunnel, a dank, claustrophobic crawl space, led to another locked door, with entry to the dungeon down a small 3-rung ladder. When Jamelske's wife passed away in 1999, he had already imprisoned and released 3 sex slaves.
Jeez.
Yeah, he didn't even wait for her to die.
Yeah, no kidding. What a gentleman.
Jamelske made no attempt to provide even a modicum of comfort for his victims. They were forced to live in degrading conditions and subjected to daily rape. Their dungeon featured a foam mattress and a makeshift toilet made up of a seatless chair positioned above a bucket. Jamelske's captives bathed with a garden hose in a stained bathtub on top of a raised wooden deck with a drain plug, but no plumbing. The water pooled on the cement floor, creating damp and moldy conditions until it eventually evaporated. Meanwhile, a clock radio and TV connected to an extension cord that ran through a small hole in the wall were the only sources of entertainment. So at least they had entertainment. It's the least he could do, guys.
Yeah, what a guy.
Jamelske roamed the streets of Syracuse, targeting teenage runaways and vulnerable women and holding them captive one at a time. He would entice them into his car under the pretext of offering them a ride, selecting victims from different ethnic backgrounds. Among his victims was a 14-year-old Native American girl whom he'd abducted in 1988 and initially confined in a small well behind his mother's house. Later, he, quote-unquote, upgraded her to his newly constructed bunker, where she remained in prison for 2.5 years until he returned her to her home in 1990. This girl did not report what he had done to her to the authorities. In 1995, Jamelske abducted another 14-year-old Latino girl and kept her in his dungeon until 1997, when she was dropped off at her mother's apartment. The girl's family didn't report the kidnapping, though they spotted a man she identified as her abductor driving past their house for weeks afterwards.
That's sad that they didn't report it.
Yeah. His next victim was 53-year-old Vietnamese woman. According to a later statement, Jamelske liked hearing her sing, so he placed a TV in the dungeon for her to use. She was reported missing she was reported missing by her boyfriend a few days after her disappearance, but the police had no leads. After a few months in captivity, Jamelske dropped the woman off at a Greyhound bus station with $50. Unlike the previous victims, though, she did report her abduction, with the police having... Sorry, what?
I said good.
Oh.
Somebody finally reported it.
Unfortunately, with the police having no leads as to where she would have been held or who could have done it, the investigation led nowhere. The victim herself later stated that the authorities didn't believe her, and she was actually accused of making the whole thing up.
Oh my God. Of course, it's the victim's fault.
Always victim blaming. Really pisses me off. Jamelske performed his next abduction in 2001. The victim was a Caucasian 26-year-old mother of two and was taken from outside her workplace. She was released after 2 months outside her mother's home, the address of which Jamelske hadn't been told. She later shared her experiences on Larry King using the pseudonym Jennifer. Like the previous victim, she reported her abduction. She told the police that Jamelske's car was a tan 1975 Mercury Comet. They searched for the car and found one, but the owner was not responsible. In actuality, the victim got the make and the color of the car right, but its year was in 1974.
Ugh.
The small details, guys. The little ones. Off by a year. Is there really much of a difference between those two?
No, they could have searched them all.
I would have searched like a span. Like I would have been like 73 to 76.
Just like a overall body style.
Yeah.
Because they don't change that much throughout the year.
Yeah. So Jamelske's final victim was a 16-year-old African-American girl. She was abducted in October of 2002. She had managed to befriend Jamelske. An investigator later described this friendship as Stockholm Syndrome. And he actually took a special liking to her, even allowing her upstairs into his home, though he would seal all possible exits to keep her from escaping. Jamelske kept his victims in check by using both threats and psychological manipulation. He would chain their ankles and force them to continue having sex with him, often convincing them that their families were in danger if they tried to escape or tell anyone about their captivity. He also used mind games, telling some victims that he was part of a police sex slave ring and had to follow orders from his superiors or bosses, as he would refer to them. To add credibility to his story, he would show them a sheriff's badge he had found on the streets years earlier. And I actually talked to a policeman the other day because I was thinking about the case and everything. And it got me thinking, so in Washington State, impersonating a police officer is a gross misdemeanor. So
cool.
It's like not even that serious, I guess, here. But in New York, where Jamelske's at, it is a Class E felony. You can pay a pretty hefty fine up to $5,000, and it also can equate to jail time as well. And I forget how much jail time it was, so sorry about that.
Washington's just like, fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. Jamelske manipulated his victims by convincing them that their obedience would increase their chances of being released sooner. His 53-year-old Vietnamese victim was captured on videotape pleading to the bosses for her release. The fourth victim, who has been identified as Jennifer Spalding, wanted to write home to her parents in 2001 to let them know she was alive. Jamelske agreed, but only to say that she was entering a drug rehabilitation clinic. When her family received and confirmed the letter from her, the police closed her missing persons case. So despite living in an upscale neighborhood, Jamelske kept his deviant behavior hidden from his neighbors. He consumed Viagra like it was candy and regularly subjected his victims to rape and Old Testament Bible readings.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know how those two things go together, really, but oh well. I mean, not oh well, but like,
oh well.
That's none of my business. Oh, now it's everybody's business.
Yep.
So the captives knew that if they were to kill Jamelske without obtaining the combination to their cell's padlock, they would be trapped in the dungeon forever. So that was not an option for them. When Jamelske was ready to release his victims, he would first blindfold them before dropping them off. As victims reported their ordeal to the police. Do you guys know how hard it is to say ordeal?
Ordeal.
Like when you're just saying it regularly, but when you're like, ordeal. Like, do you know how many times I fuck that word up? I don't even care anymore.
There's always at least one word for me that I can never say.
Lowry.
Oh, God.
As victims reported their ordeal to the police, their social status as runaways and substance abusers hampered the investigation. The rape kit test for Spaulding showed no evidence of sexual assault, as Jamelske ensured that he had no sexual contact with a victim for several days prior to their release.
Bastard.
Further complicating things, Jamelske's victims couldn't describe where they were held or who their abductor and rapist was other than an old white man. I couldn't find if he would like wear a mask or how they weren't able to describe him. What's funny is, hold on, I'm actually going to send you a picture. So you remember last week how we were talking about Game of Thrones?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this guy, I shit you not, looks like the Lannister dad.
Tywin?
Yes. Yep. He looks like Tywin Lannister. Thank you. Hold on. I am sending you the picture.
Just an old white guy. Aren't they all?
Yeah. I mean, not that anybody could be like, oh, he looks like the guy from Game of Thrones. And people would be like, because this obviously happened before that. But he does. He does kind of look like Tywin Lannister. A little bit. Doesn't he?
He does. Throw some glasses on him.
Yeah.
Little goatee thing going on.
Yeah.
I can see it. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Season 2 is just going to be cases of where they look like everyone from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. How ironic would that be?
Oh, we should do it.
Which is funny because doesn't Tywin Lannister actually show up in season 2? So we had like
I think so.
Theon Greyjoy and all of them in season 1. Episode 1. Sorry.
1.
Yeah. Sorry, we got a little sidetracked there, guys. You guys should look this guy up, though. If you've ever seen Game of Thrones, you would be like, oh, yeah, I see what they're talking about. Okay. So, however, in October of 2002, Jamelske's final victim, the 16-year-old runaway from Syracuse, would be his undoing. Dun, dun, dun.
Yay!
Over 6 months of captivity, the girl convinced Jamelske that she was his friend, and he felt confident enough to take her out to karaoke bars and for his weekly visit to his recycling center.
6 months.
6 months, yeah.
It's fucking terrible.
On April 7th, 2003, at the recycling depot, Jamelske's captive asked if she could call a church. He handed her the open yellow pages, and in a hurry, she called her sister and explained the situation. Using the caller ID, her sister was able to locate the business in Manlius, Syracuse, and immediately contacted the police. They apprehended Jamelske and rescued his victim from a nearby car dealership.
Yay.
Upon investigators searching Jamelske's house of horrors and hoarded junk, he had a collection of over 13,000 bottles in his possession.
Jeez.
That was, yeah, like what the fuck? That was later sold on eBay for $500 sometime after his conviction.
What were the bottles of? Just random.
So there was like
bottle?
beer bottles, glass bottles. He would take them and like get them recycled. He would do like weekly recycling because, I mean, he was a millionaire, but he still kept.
Oh yeah, he was really frugal.
Yeah. Yep.
That's right. I forgot.
They were especially shocked by the depravity of his dungeon. One of the walls had the words "Wall of Thugs" written on it, a detail that Jennifer had mentioned when she reported her kidnapping. Above the entrance to the dungeon hung a crucifix with the words "Peace to all who enter here" written underneath it, which I don't know about y'all, but What happened down there was not very peaceful.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, a series of calendars were found where victims had to systematically mark each date with the code letter B as in boy, S as in Sam, or T as in Tom. The codes denoted each date a victim was either raped, so S, bathed for B, or brushed their teeth was T. And the collective calendars covered a 15-year time span. The Onondaga Sheriff's Office brought in a mobile command center ground penetrating radar to search for buried bodies and evidence technicians to examine the junk scattered all over the dungeon. Though no bodies were found, the investigators found several old issues of magazines and hundreds of folders filled with old bills and receipts. The arrogant Jamelske, who was 68 at the time, thought he'd get a slap on the wrist and community service, but ultimately pleaded guilty to 5 counts of first-degree kidnapping, and in July of 2003 was sentenced to 18 years to life in prison. The victims were spared from reliving their horror in court, and most of their names have not been made public. Jamelske's wealth was liquidated and split between his victims as compensation. On December 22nd of 2020, Jamelske was denied parole. In the first sentence of his decision, the parole board says, quote, "A review of your record, interview, and deliberation led the panel to conclude that if released, there is a reasonable possibility that you would not live and remain at liberty without again violating the law."
Good, I'm glad he was denied. Dickbag.
The now 85-year-old told the parole board, quote, that he was approached by someone that said it would be a good idea for a friend of hers that's a runaway to be there rather than out on the streets. I don't know who this fucking person was, but I can assure you that your friend who was a runaway is probably much better off never stepping foot inside of this man's dungeon.
Yeah.
Nobody would be better off doing that. Prosecutors say he'd keep girls for weeks, months, even years, and force them to sleep on a foam mattress. Jamelske says, quote, "It was a very comfortable mattress. I slept on it."
Oh, what a guy.
He also told them, I know, right? Like, you didn't sleep on it every night, fucker. He also told them that in the dungeon, quote, "There were bubble baths with scented candles and a shower for privacy." Which, myth busted, bitch. Okay. Turns out that was not right. Sorry. The parole board ultimately decided it is concerned with Jamelske's failure to take responsibility for his actions and his inability to grasp the harm and trauma he caused the victims and to accept treatment that can benefit him. Finally, the panel found it very disturbing that Jamelske engaged in such behaviors while living with his wife, who he said did not know what he was doing. He was denied parole again on December 22nd of 2022, so just last year. Jamelske is currently housed in the Mohawk Correctional Facility in Rome, New York. The facility is classified as a medium security, but also has a maximum security unit and a special housing unit. So as I stated earlier, the real names of James Jamelske's of what? I went to say Jim and James at the same time, and neither of those names are correct because his name was John. So, I told you I had 2 edibles before this, okay? The real names of John Jamelske's victims have not been made public, and the following names are their pseudonyms. Kristen, age 14, was abducted in October of 1988 and released in 1990. Michelle, also age 14, was abducted March 31st, 1995, and released in 1997. Tina, age 53, was abducted August 31st, 1997, and released May 23rd of 1998. Jennifer, age 26, was abducted May 11th, 2001, and released 2 months later. So she must have been his least favorite. Sorry, that was rude. That was rude. I didn't mean it like that. I did not mean it like that. And Mika, age 16, was abducted in October of 2002 and rescued on April 9th, 2003. So that's like roughly 6 months. That is my case for you. That's what I got. Happy birthday, Shaina. I'm sorry I ruined your whole fucking birthday with that. I just can't get over the fact that he did all of that with his wife in the house.
Right?
And he's lucky he never got any of those women pregnant, too. Like, what would he have done? I wonder what he would have done. And I researched it. I researched if he ever got any of them pregnant, and he didn't.
I'm going to say they're the lucky ones, not him.
Well, yeah, both, but it's so horrible.
I can't imagine living in a cement dungeon with like no sunlight for months or even years.
Years. And I did find that the 53-year-old Vietnamese woman, she was a refugee, and she spoke hardly any English.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
I know, it's so bad. But you have facts for us, don't you?
I do. So I have a few facts about kidnapping.
Ooh, I'm so excited. Whoop, whoop. I love learning about statistics and facts. It's one of my favorite parts, honestly. That's a lie.
So, biggest reason for kidnapping is motives. Kidnapping of children is usually done by one parent or others. The kidnapping of adults is often for ransom or to force someone to withdraw money from an ATM, but may also be for sexual assault. Children have also been kidnapped for the commission of sexual assault. How many people go missing in the U.S. every day? A child goes missing every 40 seconds in the U.S.
That's over fucking crazy.
Yeah, that is insane. So putting it over 2,100 children a day. In excess of 800,000 children are reported missing each year. Another 500,000 go missing without ever being reported. Who is more likely to get kidnapped? Kids aged 12 and above are kidnapping victims in around 80% of all cases involving minors. That is a huge chunk. Teens are the most common victims of kidnapping, according to child abduction statistics. Who goes missing the most in the U.S.? So 4 out of every 1,000 Black Americans are reported missing every year, compared to 1 in every 1,000 white Americans. And while most cases are resolved quickly, if a Black child is missing, it is more likely to be unresolved longer or remain unresolved altogether, according to a 2018 study of missing children in New York.
I wonder if that is because, and I hate to say it, but I wonder if that's just because like our system is flawed when it comes to ethnicities. So yeah. I feel like that's more of they're just not looking for them because of their ethnic background, which is 100%.
I have no doubt that is why.
Yeah, which is just fucked up because it shouldn't matter the color of somebody's skin. If they're missing and they're in danger, like you do everything you can to find them.
I definitely agree.
All right, continue. Sorry.
What country has the most missing persons? The United States has what may be the world's highest number of missing persons. According to the National Crime Information Center, missing person and unidentified person files, 521,705 people were reported missing in 2021. That's over 500,000 people.
Yeah, that's a big number. That's a very big number.
Very big. Where do kids go missing the most in the U.S.? So according to a study done in January of 2022, the top 6 states that children go missing in are Texas, New York, Florida, Ohio, California, and Washington State. So that's cool since I have kids in Washington State.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. So I'm looking at the numbers that you listed on there, and that is just such a huge 3,588 kids in Texas.
Yep.
And that's drastic. Like,
yeah,
because the jump is more than 1,000, not so much more, because New York is 2,502. Florida and Ohio are up there with that. And then California, you have 1,828.
And Washington is
Yeah.
actually not far behind California.
Yeah,
So,
and then Washington, you have 1,585. That's just crazy to me.
yeah.
I never thought Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess I don't know. Texas has like such strict like laws and penalties for stuff like, I mean, not that people take that into consideration when they're doing the shit that they're doing, but yeah, that just,
I think the number might be so high in Texas because Texas is huge. So it definitely
yeah.
covers a lot more.
Yeah, but then like I would honestly think that California would be like the next largest.
Yeah, I would think
But
so
it's
too.
not.
So, non-family abduction and stereotypical kidnapping stats. 81% were 12 years old or older in non-family abduction cases. And that's where it's not like a family member breaking,
Right.
custodial agreement or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it's like a stranger, like they don't know this person at all.
Yeah. 58% were 12 years old or older in stereotypical kidnappings. 86% of the perpetrators are male. The abducted children are predominantly female. Nearly half of all victims were sexually assaulted.
And that just kind of goes to prove that most of these victims that are abducted are kind of like either sold off into sex trafficking rings or they're made to be like somebody's personal sex slave or like they were abducted for primarily one reason and one reason only.
Oh, yeah. How many kidnapping victims survive? 99% of juvenile kidnapping cases were found alive, which is a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. So that is actually really awesome.
Yeah, because it could have been flipped. It could be 1%.
Yeah.
So.
In the case of adults, 22% of the cases were found dead. So obviously, the odds aren't in their favor as much. How long do kidnapping cases last? Most children reported missing are recovered safely after a relatively brief period of time. However, family abduction cases have the longest average time missing, with an average time of 326 days, versus cases of runaways which average the shortest time missing at 61 days. How many missing children are never found? Out of the 500,000 children that go missing every year in the United States, nearly all of them are found. Between 100,000 and 200,000 kids are brought into the human trafficking business in America each year. Approximately 90% of victims of human trafficking in the country are American. Kids around age 12 to 13 are targeted more than any other ages. The average age for girls brought into human trafficking is 13 and 12 for boys. Approximately 2.8 million kids run away from home each year and become huge targets for traffickers. Within 48 hours of being on the streets, 1 in 3 runaway kids is approached by a trafficker. Approximately 57% of girls who have ran away have been raped by someone outside of the family, and 30% have been raped by someone in the family.
That's just disgusting.
Very disgusting.
But also, I wanted to touch base on the fact that you have about the kids aged 12 to 13 and how it's not just females. So when people are like, lock up your daughters, like, no, lock up your sons and your daughters because they're not just going after the girls.
Yeah. Hide your kids, hide your wife. They're raping everybody around here.
Oh, shit. Fuck.
And that is enough about facts for today. I do have a couple famous kidnapping victims. Just briefly go over these ones. So the first one is Elizabeth Ann Smart. She was kidnapped at age 14 on June 5th, 2002 by Brian Mitchell from her home in the Federal Heights neighborhood of Salt Lake City, Utah. She was held captive by Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Barzee, on the outskirts of Salt Lake City, and later in San Diego County, California. Her captivity lasted approximately 9 months before she was discovered in Sandy, Utah, approximately 18 miles from her home. The next one is Adam John Walsh. He was an American child who was abducted from a Sears department store at the Hollywood Mall in Hollywood, Florida, on July 27, 1981. His severed head was found 2 weeks later in a drainage canal alongside Highway 60, /Yeehaw Junction in rural Indian River County, Florida. His death garnered national interest and was made into the 1983 television film Adam, seen by 38 million people in its original airing. Adam's father, as some of you might know, is John Walsh. He became an advocate for victims of violent crimes and was the host of the television program America's Most Wanted, and later In Pursuit with John Walsh. Convicted serial killer Otis Toole confessed to Adam's murder, but was never convicted of the crime because evidence was reportedly lost, and Toole later recanted his confession. Toole died in prison of liver failure on September 15, 1996. No new evidence has come to light since then, and police announced on December 16, 2008, that the Walsh case was closed and that they were satisfied that Toole was the killer.
So I think it was you that told me this. John Walsh actually started America's Most Wanted because of his son, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He became, outside of the TV shows too, he became a huge advocate
Oh yeah.
for missing children and people in general.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I can't imagine. I mean, my kids have, kind of wandered off from me, like in stores and stuff, and the heart attack that you have, and then I don't really want to talk about it.
I can't even imagine because I don't have kids yet. Like, I want them, but obviously Jason and I are kind of waiting. But when I see a kid by itself walking down the street or in a grocery store, my first thought is like, where are your parents? And I will keep an eye on this child until like a safe, like that I know they are with a safe adult, like to the point I've actually asked somebody like, is that your child? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Not that just them being like, yeah, that's my kid. Like, it's like more enough. But like, when a child knows the person that's, coming to get them, So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, no, it makes me super uneasy. I'm like, I used to make fun of people who had like the leashes for their kids. Like it's like on a backpack. I used to make fun of people who had that. And now I'm like, oh, that's such a great idea. Because this world is
a smart idea.
Yeah. I'm like, people get it's also crazy.
My old ass can't keep up with a child when it's running.
Shit, right?
Those leashes.
Especially yours. Your 5-year-old, he's wild.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. That's all I got to say about that. Just, yeah. The last one I have for you today is the Lindbergh baby. On March 1st, 1932, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., the 20-month-old son of aviators Charles Lindbergh and Anne Morrow Lindbergh, was abducted from his crib in the upper floor of the Lindbergh's home in New Jersey. On May 12th, the child's corpse was discovered by a truck driver by the side of a nearby road. In September 1934, a German immigrant carpenter named Bruno Richard Hauptmann was arrested for the crime. After a trial that lasted from January 2nd to February 13th, 1935, he was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. Despite his conviction, he continued to profess his innocence, but all appeals failed and he was executed in the electric chair at the New Jersey State Prison on April 3rd, 1936. Hauptmann's guilt or lack thereof continues to be debated in the modern day.
That's just crazy to me. I'm going to have to research that one a little bit more because I'm super intrigued now just by that little tidbit. I mean, I knew about the Lynchburg baby and everything, but it's been years since I've actually really dived into it.
Yeah, it's been years since, I even thought about it, and then researching, more famous cases that I could put out the end. It was like, oh, Lindbergh. And I was like, oh yeah, duh, the Lindbergh baby. It was huge.
I know. When I first saw that on there, I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? And then I was like, oh, that's right. When you said the Lindbergh baby, I was like, oh, there we go. Okay.
Yep.
Like, we know everybody by their nickname or their story title,
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that is all that we have for you this week. And Shaina, I hope I didn't completely ruin your birthday, but I'm sorry if I did. I'll make it up to you.
You didn't at all. But I'll just get you back next week.
No.
Also, we do have a couple more birthdays to shout out. Our listener, Michelle G, is celebrating her birthday on the 4th, and Bethany S has a birthday on the 6th. So, happy birthday, guys.
Happy birthday, guys. As always, we want to hear from you. We tell you guys every week. So hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or by emailing us at thickthighsmurdervibes@gmail.com.
Join us next week as we take the show on the road. You won't want to miss it.
I can't wait.
I'm excited.
Yay. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.